Welcome, everybody. We are so thrilled that you have joined us tonight because we are all in for a treat. We have Dr. David Colby that is going to be our guest speaker tonight. And as you can see from our title slide, it's an important topic of what he's going to be covering. Who can you trust and what is happening with our supplements and vitamins in the United States. So let me just give a brief introduction for Dr. Colby. He is an associate professor of medicinal chemistry at the University of Mississippi. He has a doctor of pharmacy degree and a Ph.D. in chemistry. So this guy knows his stuff. He teaches about chemistry, natural products, dietary supplements to pharmacy students. He has a research laboratory where he also studies natural products, dietary supplements, and drug development. So David, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm enjoying being back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us about this important topic.
So this topic is a great one. We start thinking about what's going on in the dietary supplement industry in the United States. Previously, I talked more broadly about 2 years ago about some important things about the dietary supplements. So this one is going to be a little different, some nice new information, especially some stuff that's very recent and very important. So what is important? Quality, having a quality product. Now, I wanted to start off to get you all thinking about, imagine you are buying a car, but of course you're concerned you don't want to buy a lemon. So what do you do to make sure you don't make a bad decision? You don't get that lemon. The moment you drive it off the parking lot, it starts falling apart. Well, of course, you look at the car. There's on my slide is a picture of a car which is parked in front of the National Center for Natural Products Research. This is a major facility that examines dietary supplements. It's right next to the pharmacy school that I work. So I thought, this is one that's kind of important to me. And here's a car. Imagine you were buying a car. What would you do to make sure it's a good purchase? Well, you would look very carefully at it. You examine the maintenance records. Go online. Has this car ever been in an accident? Has it been well taken care of? And you'd even go on a test drive, before you made that decision. But
it's
most
such a
cars,
good point, David.
Such a good point. They spend a lot of time being parked. You don't really use them. But let's compare that now to vitamins and dietary supplements. Well, many times you're taking them every day. You're using them to support good health. But how do you know you've got a quality product? You really don't. When you go, you see the bottle, and that's it. You open it up and you see pills or capsules. But how do you know that your dietary supplement is a quality one? Because you're putting this in your body and you're using it to support a healthy lifestyle. So I wanted to start by doing that little introduction because that really puts the backdrop for what we're going to talk about. So although most customers can't examine dietary supplements like scientists can, let's talk about how scientists can examine these supplements and what they find out when they do.
I appreciate that, David, because you're right. We're in the dark. And so let's dissect this a little bit. Keep going.
All right. So before we really dive too deep into this, and this was a term in my title, adulteration of dietary supplements. What is that? Well, there's actually quite high rate of adulteration. So let me define adulteration. Adulteration is when a valuable ingredient has been omitted in part, omitted in whole, it's been replaced by another substance, such as spiked with another active ingredient, could be spiked with a prescription drug, or spiked with something that's toxic. Adulteration can also mean the product has been contaminated. So that's going to be our next question. Is adulteration a problem with vitamins and dietary supplements? And since it's January, I thought I would really focus this talk on one area. Many of us have our New Year's resolutions. A lot of people want to get healthy. They want to lose weight. With that being said, we're going to talk about some weight loss supplements, things that people use when they're going to do those to enhance their workouts, help them lose weight. I think that's important because that's on a lot of people's mind, especially those of you that are in Shaklee. Obviously, you have products to help people lose weight. So here's a study that was published in 2012 And it came about because they wanted to develop different ways of testing for unsafe drugs in weight loss supplements. So why did they do this? Well, FDA consumer safety officers in 3 test sites, that would be sites in California, New York, and Ohio, were routinely testing weight loss supplements, and what they found was 25% of them, that's 1 in 4 products, was adulterated, and it contained sibutramine. Sibutramine is an unsafe weight loss drug that's been removed from the market because it's associated with pretty significant heart issues. It can cause stroke, cause cardiovascular issues. It was removed from the US market. And these FDA safety officers found that 1 in 4
Wow.
had sibutramine in it. So that really caused them to start this study where they needed to have a more extensive protocol for testing other adulterants. And after they finished the study, they developed a way of testing for 11 adulterants in weight loss supplements.
My goodness, David, no wonder people are leery of things because there's so many things out there that are dangerous for them. So it's so important that we're sharing this information. Should I go on to the next slide?
Oh, yeah, let me say one more thing about this slide. So a little bit more information here. So what are they looking for? Again, these are dietary supplements that are in the US. What are some of these other things they're looking for? Well, believe it or not, in weight loss supplements, they're looking for things like Prozac. That's one of the protocols.
Oh, wow.
They're looking at diuretics. These are ways to help people lose fluids. People take dietary supplements, weight loss supplements, because they want to lose weight fast. Well, a diuretic will help them do that. And it's not surprising, some of them are embedded in these weight loss supplements. They have other unsafe weight loss drugs and other unsafe stimulants.
Wow. Wow.
So, David, I just want to understand what you just said. When people go to buy weight loss products, and they're heavily advertised all the time, that they would have no way of knowing that there are at least 11 categories of dangerous drugs that are routinely found in these weight loss products. And when you were talking about 1 in 4 being adulterated, you weren't talking just about the sibutramine. You mean 1 in 4 could be contaminated or adulterated with any of these categories.
Oh, let me clarify. When they were testing for one thing, they found a 25% adulteration rate. So in a little bit later, I'm going to start talking about what happens when they start testing for more things. So surprise, surprise, the adulteration rates go up, up, up.
So the 1 in 4 was just for the one sibutramine. Oh,
that's right.
Golly, that is even worse. Okay, sorry, thank you. That makes it clear.
All right. So one thing that I just mentioned was the presence of unsafe stimulants in dietary supplements. So let's talk about these a little bit more. Now, why do we put stimulants in supplements? Well, stimulants can help raise your metabolism. Think about that. A lot of weight loss supplements, performance enhancing supplements will have caffeine. There's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of caffeine to help give you a boost, especially if you're feeling down, and also help obviously raise your metabolism. But stimulants, they work, but many of them are not safe. So there's some that are banned from the market. And here's a study of 21 weight loss supplements in the United States where they were looking at products that were labeled with Acacia regula. So why were they doing that? Well, these products, they contain this natural product called Acacia. It was believed that it was a natural source of stimulants. So they looked in 21 of these products, and they found that 11 of 21, that's 52% of them that were labeled with this Acacia, had an unsafe stimulant, BMPEA. This is an unsafe stimulant. It shouldn't be used. It shouldn't be taken. Now, you might be thinking, well, what's going on here? Well, the FDA inspectors, and when they did this study, they wanted to see, is this stimulant, are naturally occurring stimulants present in Acacia regula? And what they found was they weren't. So if you take the amount that they had labeled on the bottle, or even a much larger quantity, and concentrate it down, it still doesn't have any stimulants in it. So these manufacturers were actually taking BMPEA from, an industrial source and just putting it into these supplements, and then trying to cover their tails by labeling it acacia and say, well, it's perfectly safe, because a lot of people think when they're taking a supplement, oh, it's natural, it's safe.
Right.
They don't understand, well, it's labeled natural, but they've actually put a lot of unsafe things into it.
So really hiding behind the label of what they're doing, and yet a consumer doesn't know.
Right.
So, wow, 52%, David. That is really high, really disappointing.
So the next one I wanted to talk about, this one's a little bit older, but this is a classic one. So we've established how high the adulteration rates are in a lot of these performance enhancing and weight loss supplements. Let's talk about variability. That is, let's go in ones that we know actually have the product that's labeled in the bottle. So this was a study of 25 ginseng products in the United States that were readily available. They simply went in and measured the content. They wanted to see, is what's in the bottle what's actually the amount or the concentration that's labeled. And they found significant variability in nearly every single one of these products. The concentrations ranged from 11% of the labeled dose all the way to 327%. So some of these products had triple the amount that was listed on the label.
Wow. So they might have said like 50% on the label, but then when it was actually in the laboratory, in the laboratory, it could be 250% or something like that.
Yes.
David, when I first began using Shaklee products and was really researching them, one of the things that people would point out as a benefit was that what was in the tablet was the same as what was on the label. And I remember at the time thinking, well, of course, why is that such a big deal? Of course, what's on the label is in the tablet. And that's when I realized that isn't the case for most of the products on the market. I remember one study, maybe you might have been the one pointing it out, but it was a bottle of vitamin E, as I recall. And within that bottle of a brand X of some sort, within the same bottle, there was a variation like you're describing here. So there's very little regulation of that. So when you're getting into these ranges of 300 times a dosage, that could be dangerous, is what you're saying.
Oh, most certainly, especially when you're talking about stimulants. And if they do have triple the amount, for example, triple the amount of caffeine, and on top of that, they're putting unsafe stimulants, that can be a big problem. The other thing to think about, and that's an excellent point you made, Barb, is I can tablet a perfect match to what you see in your bottle. But if I do a placebo, just a sugar pill, how can you, when you're the consumer at home, distinguish between a sugar pill and a supplement that is appropriately?
You can't.
You really can't. But let me get back to the example that I started with about this thought about going out and buying a car. Many people, when they want a dietary supplement, what do? They want the absolute cheapest possible product that they can find. Now, is that logical? Imagine you were buying a car, and Barb, you're in the Chicago area, and you said, I want to buy the cheapest possible car that I can find. I mean, the cheapest. All I care about is low cost. What kind of car would you get?
Yeah. Barb.
Well, it would probably get me to the mailbox, and I'd be lucky.
That's right.
Right, but there's that caveat to it that that. You look at this car and you say, this is a piece of crap, right? And you can see that. You can check it out. I'm only paying a few $100s for a car. It's horrible. But it doesn't take much to take a bottle, print a label. I got my printer right behind me. I can print out a nice label, and then we can tablet. You can go online and buy placebos, put them in a bottle, print out the label to have whatever you want.
Consumer has
Now,
no
that's
idea.
a problem. That's a big problem for people who want to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm. Especially because it looks professional, but then it could be like
these studies are pointing out that that's exactly what they do. So the consumer is really quite at risk here. Okay, David, I can hardly wait to see your next exciting news on the next slide. More good news.
So this is another study just done a few years ago. We're talking about sports, so it's Sports Nutrition and Exercise Journal. This was done to look at variability. This is our second variability slide. They're looking at variability over time. So they looked at 9 sports supplements in the United States, and they actually went and they bought the same supplements at 3 different times over 9 months. So 3 samples for 9 products, that's 27 samples, and they were looking at caffeine. Caffeine is very common, widely used. Obviously, it's in appropriate doses, not a problem. But what did they find? So we already know there can be substantial variability, but what about the same product? Well, the caffeine content in the same product varied between -7% to 266% compared to the initial measure. So again, this goes to show you that even if you're buying the same product, you can have a huge range as you go back and purchase the same thing on the market.
Well, and that just brings up too people who are buying things that maybe it is the cheapest online. David, what about that when it's something on the internet?
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that as well. A lot of people just want to go and buy something on the internet. Again, probably looking at price. So I have a study here in one of my next slides talking about what do you get when you buy on the internet. So I like this study. This is another recent one just done a few years ago. This is back to an identification study. And this one's a little different from the other ones we've talked about because these are weight loss supplements, but these are natural weight loss supplements. That is, they wanted to go on the internet and buy those that they knew that they wanted to eliminate any supplements that might have a stimulant. So to say, let's eliminate all the ones that labeled or we think they might have a stimulant. Let's go to the ones that really sell themselves as being natural or all natural. They got 160 on the internet. This was a US study. So they were making these purchases in the United States. They got in 160 of these natural weight loss supplements. They tested them. What did they find? 43% or 43 of 160 contain sibutramine. That's that unsafe weight loss. Another 9 of them contain phenolphthalein. This is an unsafe laxative that's been removed from the market. And 23 of them contain both sibutramine and phenolphthalein. So overall, these 160 natural weight loss supplements, which you can buy on the internet if you're in the United States, 46% of them were adulterated.
Oh, gosh. My goodness.
And David, tell them about that study you told me about that they did in the European Union about advising their citizens.
Absolutely. So in one of my earlier talks, I presented data that wasn't just based in the United States. What happens when we start looking at supplements that are being tested in other countries? And there was a very large study that was done in the EU. They were looking at dietary supplements that were domestic as well as those that were international, and they were determining adulteration rates. And so they looked at the domestic and they looked at all the countries that they were importing the dietary supplements. And they noticed that one of these countries was off the chart. So which country do you think had the highest rate of adulterated products that they were sending into the European Union?
Well, at the time, I guess China.
Right. That's what most people guess. China is number 2. The US is number 1. Mm-hmm. The adulteration rate in the US products that were being imported into the EU, on average, were 40% more likely to be adulterated from those that they got in from China. And keep in mind, China also has a very high adulteration rate in their dietary supplement.
We were 40% over China?
Yes, we beat them.
In not a good way.
In not a good way. Yeah.
So
Okay.
David, back
Well,
back to that original question. Who can we trust? Who can we trust in this whole
That is a
arena?
great question. If you're looking for dietary supplements, you really want to make sure you get a good company, one that's, like Barb mentioned earlier, I mean, this might surprise people that they can stand behind their product, that what is in the bottle is what is on the label, especially in the context of putting a quality product on the market and then actually studying their product to make sure, doing the science to make sure that what they're claiming, if they say this is a weight loss supplement and someone says, well, how can you make that claim? You want them to be able to give you credible science that backs it up, that this will help you when you're trying to be healthy to lose the weight.
And you were sharing with us earlier when we were talking beforehand, just that you have found those things in Shaklee.
Yes.
Well,
So when my family was first introduced to Shaklee, I was absolutely blown away on so many counts. The first one is how extensively they test their dietary supplements. Some people might say, why in the world would a company test for hundreds of contaminants in their products? Well, I've shown you tonight, there's a really good reason why they do that.
Yeah.
Why would you want to have high quality products? Well, of course you want high quality products, but you have to test that. And with Shaklee, I was amazed. They test every step of the way. They look at the ingredients. They look at the formulations. They look at the final products. They look at heavy metals. They look at all the contaminants that they have to and all the contaminants that they don't. That was impressive to me. The other thing that was impressive to me is they said they did the science. Well, every supplement company says they do the science. It'd be hard to find one that says they don't. But they don't just do the science. They have Ph.D. trained scientists on staff, and really good ones. If you think the scientists they're hiring, they're people who got their training at the right places, working with experts and leaders in the field. That was amazing to me, especially because their science is publishing multiple peer-reviewed scientific publications every year. They have well over 100. That means a lot. If you're not in science like I am, let me tell you, publishing a paper is quite challenging. You write up your paper, you do your studies, you send it to the editors of top journals. And a lot of times the competition for top journals, usually the publication rates are 10, sometimes even 5%. The majority, they just reject out. Well, you get those, you send your best, you work with the editor, you revise it, you do more studies, you go back and forth until you finally get it published. It's challenging to get papers published, especially in top journals. When I saw that from Shaklee, that really made me understand their commitment to doing the science and delivering quality products. And when I saw that, I told my wife, Rebecca, I said, this is something we need to get into. This is a company that's really head and shoulders above the competition. Now, most scientists that are in this field really have a good understanding of these high levels of adulteration. So when it comes to supplements, a lot of them, they don't, that they stay away. They don't touch it with a 10-foot pole because they know what the studies say. But to me, when I saw Shaklee, I'm like, wow, this is great. This is phenomenal. I am so excited about what this company has to offer because they're going more than the extra mile to deliver quality products to their customers.
And David, I remember when Dr. Daggy was the head of Shaklee Science Department, and remember him saying the biggest challenge that the company had was finding sources of ingredients that meet their standards. That because we are living in an increasingly polluted world, and they reject lots and lots of batches of things.
Absolutely. Some of the other companies that I'm aware of, when we work with them and we tell them, you need to do third-party testing, and they do the third-party testing, they are shocked that what they've got from a manufacturer isn't what they say they purchased. It blows their mind. To me, it's like, Well, yeah, you have to do third-party testing. I mean, why wouldn't you? To me, I'm glad that Shackley does it. They know that. The other thing that you might not appreciate, because without a scientific background, is when my wife and I, when we went and we visited Shackley headquarters and we saw their labs, the labs that they have are top notch. The instrumentation to do science and really test these supplements, you're talking about buying top quality instrumentation, having PhD trained scientists running it. A lot of these instruments will cost tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to test these products. A lot of these supplement companies, they say, hey, we need just minimum, you need to buy at least one instrument that's going to cost $300K, and then you need someone, a really good technician to run it. $300,000 investment, we're not going to do that. But Shackley does. And to me, that's impressive as well.
Cool.
I love that, David. And I personally was so impressed with some of the science, but I don't know as much as what you know because of your background. So it's even more impressive that it impresses you, if that makes sense. I know that's kind of a funny way to say it, but I wanted you to say too, as we're closing, David, that you had that new position that was really cool for the master's degree program.
Oh, yes. So one of the things that I'm excited that the University of Mississippi, their School of Pharmacy, they want me to start and direct a graduate program in dietary supplement education, specifically a master's program that will provide an opportunity for people who want graduate training to get the training, to learn about the regulation, to learn about the science, to learn about the analytical testing, to learn about the validation, the quality controls, and actually come and rotate through our National Center of Natural Products Research. People on the webinar not appreciate the fact that at the University of Mississippi, we have the National Center for Natural Products Research on campus. That's part of our pharmacy school. That is a huge resource that we have. We actually train FDA inspectors for the dietary supplement industry on site. So people who come for this training program, and we're hopeful that we can get it rolling by the fall of 2020, then they can be trained by the top experts in analytical testing and regulation and even inspection. And we're very excited about this, really, meet the needs, which is there for the dietary supplement industry.
Oh, that'll raise the standard for everybody by doing that. That's great. Great.
Oh,
Thank you for your work, David.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing tonight. It really means so much to all of us listening. We appreciate you, David.
So this session is going to be archived at Better Health in 31 Days / whatever your address is for that. And we thank Chris and Michelle Spell for editing and recording all of our sessions. And thank you, David. We will be seeing you again.
Yes.
Thanks, Barb.
Okay. Thanks, Becky. Everybody. Over and out.
Stay warm.